Hello, Outlaws fans and everybody else. It's episode 88 of the Middle Aged Outlaws podcast. Today we're discussing the WWF Survivor Series in 1993. And it's Thanksgiving. There's turkey. There's the Lugers by the fire. There's Luger's wife looking like some sort of hostage situations going on where she's like, her eyes are darting around. It's all go. And it's all elimination matches. No titles on the line, maybe with the exception of the Smoky Mountain Wrestling tag team belts. Adam, how's it going?
Yeah, going okay. You?
I'm alright. Thanks. I am feeling majorly let down by the WWF and 1993, based on their paper. If you told me like 3 weeks ago or whatever before we started this that I would have enjoyed talking about 5 or 6 episodes of Raw over talking about the Survivor Series, or not talking about it, but watching it, I wouldn't have believed you.
Do you know what's funny about Survivor Series is you always hear like, I think I loved it as a kid. I think I loved the teams thing, and it was, you got tag team wrestling on your pay-per-views as well, but this multi-person team setup, I liked it as a kid. It was different. It was specific to this show. And when I watch it now, I am so much less surprised that they wanted to move away from that kind of setup, because all of a sudden it feels really forced, and like you're not necessarily for the majority progressing your storylines. You're having to be like, stop, we have to do this, and then we'll resume next week. It's weird.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It's funny, isn't it? I feel the same. I think about the the Silver Vision, do, and then you see all the guys standing on the apron, and you're like, yeah, that was good times. Yeah. But you weren't really watching for the storylines then, were you? You were watching the characters and the larger than life, unbelievable sort of stuff that was going on.
Yeah, true.
I got some interesting background stuff about Survivor Series 1993. So when I was writing my notes, I get an AI prompt to fill out like sort of background of what you're writing about.
Okay.
So it got some stuff right and it got some stuff really wrong, and I was just like, this was the first Survivor Series to feature a main event that wasn't a traditional Survivor Series elimination match. No. The event introduced the concept of family versus family matchups, reflecting the WWF's increased focus on family-friendly entertainment. Wow. I don't think Greg Valentine's Shawn Michaels' actual dad, is he? And this is the kicker. This marked the pay-per-view debut of the Undertaker's evil brother, although at this time the character was portrayed by a different wrestler named the Giant Gonzalez.
Wow, they got a whole lot muddled up there.
So here's a lesson to you children and young people who are going to use AI for your exams. Didn't do it. The main event featured a tag team match of Lex Luger and The Undertaker against Yokozuna and Ludwig Borga. And I read that, and I had done all that before I watched the show, and I was like, they can't have had that many pullouts. That was just like a straight up 2-on-2.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't far off it at a point in time.
Yeah, indeed.
I think I was like, having watched this, I remembered like certain people not showing and things like that, and you hear shows sometimes be referred to as snake bit. I think this must be the ultimate show that was snake bit, because every match apart from the Smoky Mountain one had someone not there that was originally supposed to be.
It was really funny, really odd. What do you think about the way that they? I know we're jumping, but what do you think about the way that they get Razor to be like, Perfecto is the perfect partner because he's pulled out before the match even starts? What is that?
I looked this up, and apparently it wasn't really intended that he was going to run down Perfect, and they're long-term friends, and I wonder if he was just trying to, have a wee jab just for amusing himself point of view, because apparently Perfect, it had been known for a few weeks he wasn't going to make it, and because they'd been sort of planning who was going to fill in, and he hadn't been. It was some sort of family situation. He hadn't been making it to like the house shows and stuff like that for weeks, so it wasn't an on the night shock. So I think he's just done that maybe on the wind up.
That's good fun then. I like that. I wondered if he'd maybe been ordered to like bury him the way that they like to do.
Yeah.
Let's just talk it through then, shall we? Survivor Series. It's a mid pay-per-views, but here we go. Like I say, we've got the Luger family: Lex, Peggy, Brian, and Warren. I don't know. We're not going to sit here and debate the name of Lex Luger's youngest child, so let's just go. They're sat in front of this. Was that?
This was awkward. This was like, I looked it up thinking, oh, they've put in some poor cast of characters here to just be next to him. No, this is his real wife and children. And, you know, I'm not saying it's no surprise that he ended up leaving, but there's not much, you know, chemistry on the go there, I didn't think.
Oh, I was wondering where you were going there. There's not much chemistry. Well, I mean, the man is literally made of, well, I was going to say he's made of wood, but he's not. In fact, he's made of steel. Metal plates. Now, he's so wooden, though. It's just so unnatural for him.
Yeah, it's terrible.
What have I said here? You think, they're trying to play him off as this sort of wholesome family man, when in fact he's tearing about the place, rattling his metal-plated arm over people's foreheads.
Yeah.
As soon as we cut for that, some guy just looks like he's just been told to, like it's almost like somebody ran up and went, "Go!" And he's just, "Well, we'll see you again, you'll see."
Yeah, it was a pretty poor rendition, wasn't it?
It was very odd.
Yeah.
I said, I've said that this guy looks like he would have sung at Don Corleone's daughter's wedding.
We're in the Boston Garden. We've got Vince with Bobby Heenan. We're in for some classic Survivor Series tag team elimination action. They
said that, or you're saying that?
I'm saying that because that's what I was thinking at this point.
Okay.
Yeah. Heenan is very, very early on. He's talking about big egos and people are not going to be able to coexist. And he's been in the locker room, and all these guys are egomaniacs. They're not designed to be in teams and stuff like that. He's putting that out there pretty early on.
Heenan is the ultimate breadcrumb layer.
Oh,
he's just feeding us little bits and pieces. He's so good.
Yeah. Love it. We're hearing again about this radio WWF with JR and Gorilla. Yeah, and then it's in this show, isn't it? There's a point where they
switch over. Yeah.
Yes. I was sitting thinking, were people like legitimately just tuning in to listen to this on the radio? There probably were people doing that. Like,
I think, did they not talk about it being like a staple, like, no, it's definitely not a staple, but like Marines and people that were stationed overseas and stuff, I would listen to.
Okay. So I was thinking, I think we take for granted we watch whatever sporting event or whatever entertainment event on TV now, but, not everyone had access to everything.
What was this, 1993? I could have been listening to a random West Ham game on 5 Live.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
What did you think about all the... So our first match is IRS, team captain IRS, Diesel, Adam Bomb, Harvey Whippleman and Rick Martel. They come out to Diesel's music.
Yeah. What's that about?
I did like that they all come out together, though. A bit of unity going on here.
There was unity, but we're told IRS is the team captain and we're coming out to Diesel's music.
Well, I think we established that IRS doesn't have music. And that really sits with his character, because as we established, he only cares about tax. He lives in a tax bubble. He perhaps doesn't listen to music unless it's to try and catch people out with their lyrics in relation to not paying their tax. Maybe he's been combing through Gary Barlow's solo material.
I mean, you've thought about this on an entirely different level from what I did. So yeah, I think you've unpacked that whole issue right there.
And what do you think his team talk would be about before they go out?
I think he'd be talking about how, he trusts that his guys have in fact paid all their taxes, and that's how he can bring himself to team with them.
That's fair. I was going to say, I don't think Adam Bomb doesn't care about his taxes, but that's why he's got Harvey.
But But I've got to think Downtown Bruno has been, he's been, I think, definitely playing the, what was it, fiddling the books. That'll do it. Yeah, I think he's been fiddling the books. But that's what can Adam Bomb do? He's put his trust in a honourable guy like Harvey Whippleman.
There you go. Indeed, and there could be something there actually, because the team there's a bit of in-fighting going on in the team, and that could be it. You could be onto something there. And that the obsession. I mean, Martel can't be doing the books himself as well.
Probably not. Yeah, we've got I think this is a running theme through everything we've been watching, and we're going to continue to watch. Is every time Vince describes Razor as the undisputed Intercontinental Champion, Bobby Heenan or whoever's filling in as we move forward is challenging Vince on that and pointing out that even when there's the claims of Razor beat everybody, he was in a 30-man battle royal, he beat everybody. It's like, he didn't beat Shawn. And it's true. He didn't beat Shawn.
That is true. I like it. Heenan, untouchable on the line.
Yeah. Again, did you hear how over Razor was with the crowd when he came out? Oh, crazy.
And talking it over with a crowd, Razor introduces us to the fourth partner of the face team, which is the 1, 2, 3 Kid, Marty Jannetty, Razor Ramon, Mr. Perfecto, like we say, can't make it, so they bring out the Macho Man Randy Savage. That's like, I don't know, that's like you've got a five-a-side game with your mates and one of them can't make it, so you're just going to bring your mate Cristiano Ronaldo along to play in the fives match.
I've heard them so often say, when something happens, you have to try and go bigger. You have to try and improve it. Now, it doesn't always work. Shawn Michaels out of action in the build-up to WrestleMania 14, and they replace him with Savio Vega. It's not always going to work. But yeah, this one did, and the crowd were absolutely there for it.
It's absolutely amazing. Like, Macho Man has to scratch his beard, and the crowd are going absolutely mental. It's class.
Yeah.
This match, Adam, goes 27 minutes.
Felt like every minute of it, I think.
I thought it was maybe an Iron Man elimination match. Jesus.
Like, there's obviously, you referenced earlier, I think it happens pretty early on in the match when IRS's team, there's issues coming out there. I think we've got Adam Bomb and Harvey Whippleman furious with Martel. Martel, he's accidentally dropped an elbow on Adam Bomb. Martel knocks down Whippleman, and it's all kicking off. Diesel comes in to try and just diffuse everything, but then IRS as team captain, he's trying to calm it all down. And all the while, Savage is trying to rile up the crowd and get them involved.
He's up on the second rope, going crazy. Brilliant. Here's a problem with it. I'm going to poke some of the booking in this match, Adam. You've got Diesel on his own from Shawn Michaels, certainly for the first time on pay-per-view. I don't know about the first time on TV. And I was going to say they job him out, but that's a totally overused phrase, but they make him look like a bit of an idiot.
Yeah. I mean, at least the actual pin comes from like a Savage elbow drop, isn't it?
That's fair. That's fair.
But yeah. And they've built him up to be this monster, which is, I was a little bit surprised. Kind of as soon as I saw the teams, I thought something's going to happen, like he's going to be disqualified or something like that. He'll do something,
like a counted out type thing.
Yeah, that kind of thing. But no, straight up made him look probably the weakest he has looked, and then get pinned.
Weird. And also, poor Marty Jannetty, they keep ignoring him to tag him in. Some of them have been in 2, 3, 4, 5 times. At one point, he's like just sort of looking like, all right, okay, I'll just stand on the side here. It's a bit bored.
Yeah, I'm obviously, like this crowd, I'm a huge, huge fan of Macho Man Randy Savage, and I have to just admit he's not really a good team player here. He gets himself awful easily distracted.
I mean, you take Randy Savage in your team, you have to appreciate what you're getting the good and you're getting the bad aspects.
I think the thing that I was pleased about was we are at least keeping a bit of storyline on the go here because Savage is on the card. So Diesel walks down the entranceway while Savage is in the ring.
Crush.
Oh, sorry, Crush. Oh, yeah, apologies. Yeah,
Large
big
men
guy.
with mullets.
Yeah, Crush walks down the entrance ramp and Savage is extremely distracted. His teammates are trying to talk to him, keep his head in the game, but he cannot take his eyes off Crush. And eventually it gets the better of him and he gets rolled up by a IRS.
Super rolled. I've never seen anybody get rolled up off the second rope before.
That's super roll up.
Super roll up from IRS. Impressive.
So Savage then makes a beeline for Crush, who's already out of sight at that point, but he's still chasing down. So we're down to 3-on-3 now, and we hear, or we're kind of being updated by McMahon that Savage is looking for Crush.
It's like the Colosseum. So with like the Colosseum video, they used to put in the back of their videos that like you get exclusive extra content or something like that. And one of the Colosseum video content is Savage flying backstage past Bruce sitting looking bored as fucking gorilla. And he goes running away into the bathroom and he's going, Crush, are you in here? Why would Crush come out and then just slowly saunter back in and then just casually go for the shite? It's not happening.
You've got to go. Might be a long drive back to Hawaii.
That's a fair point. The rest of this match is. What did you say they're down to? 3-on-3.
3-on-3. Yeah, we get. I think it's Razor with chokeslam and a Razor's Edge to eliminate IRS. And I kind of had it in my mind. These are going to be the final two because that's just the way the story had been for
captains, IC belt stuff. Yep.
I mean, they got me with the way all this goes down. To be fair, and we get all 5 men in the ring. Razor gets Martel up for a Razor's Edge, but IRS sneaks in, hits Razor with the briefcase. Razor is counted out and busted wide open. So
this I think is great tactics for the heel captain, IRS.
Yeah.
So this got me thinking, if you were in one of these Survivor Series elimination matches, 4-on-4 or 5-on-5 or whatever, do you think it would be worth sacrificing yourself, jumping out the ring, grabbing a chair and smashing everybody on the other team and just getting disqualified?
Yeah, it's kind of like the I suppose it's similar psychology to when you've got like an Iron Man match or something like that. Do you just get the chair, take it 1 point against you for 1 fall against you for destroying the guy, absolutely destroy him, and then get like 3 or 4 pins against him because you've taken him apart? Yeah, it made sense, and IRS would have done it. You know, everything we've seen in the dastardly heel, it made total sense. So we're left with 1, 2, 3 Kid, Marty Jannetty, Rick Martel, and Adam Bomb.
Just absolute headliners, just what you wanted.
The fans are very into 1, 2, 3 Kid. He keeps just getting his ass kicked and then coming back, which, you know, is admirable. It's a good quality. He won't quit.
He's such a selling machine.
Oh yeah,
he's amazing. They could just throw him about the place.
I think the Kid at a point gets what turns out to be a fairly hot tag to Marty Jannetty, who goes at Rick Martel, and the 1, 2, 3 Kid rolls him up, and that is now a 2-on-1 advantage for the Kid and Jannetty. It's just Adam Bomb in the ring now, and at this point I had it in my mind, okay, they've been doing all this with Adam Bomb, they're going to have him take care of the 2 guys. That's how they have him walking out looking like a monster. I got every bit of this wrong. Every bit. They're probably already done with Adam Bomb. Yeah.
No, I think so too.
Jannetty rolls him up, and Marty Jannetty and 1, 2, 3 Kid are the last men standing. They are the survivors from this match.
Well, there you go. There's your Bruce Pritchard swerve that you didn't expect. This made me remember that Jannetty and 1, 2, 3 Kid end up being tag team champions at some point in 1994.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, there we go. I thought 1, 2, 3 Kid was great in this match. I actually thought Marty Jannetty was pretty. Once they eventually tagged him in, was good as well.
Mm-hmm.
You're right, but Adam Bomb, like I think they're done already.
Mario Jannetty was a really good worker. It's just a shame he couldn't stay employed for long periods of time.
Diplomatically said, well done. Okay, 20. I could not believe that went that long. I kept checking it to see what was that, like if it was still, how much longer potentially got to go. I suppose there is only about 5 matches on the card.
Yeah, so most of them are a decent length. I think one of them's quite short, not short enough.
One of them's not short enough. Indeed. Yeah. Right. Todd Pettingill backstage. He is with the Heartbreak Kid. Bizarre that he's never been on TV for such a long time, and then we're just seeing him like this. I like that he's got the Intercontinental title on. Disputes being called. Pettingill straight in there calling him the former Intercontinental Champion.
Yeah.
So he disputes that. They do a funny thing where Brett cuts a promo and then they show him the Hart family.
Yeah.
And so we cut from Shawn to the Hart family. We're with the guy that hosts what? Family Feud or some pish?
Yeah.
He was too much. Noggin in. He was worse than that little Squeak Scolari guy, Joe Fowler.
Yeah.
So Ray Combs, he's with a Hart family, and immediately look at that piece of shit, Bruce Hart. He's got these giant sunglasses on, trying to look like fucking Universal Soldier or someone standing at the back there.
I've got in my notes. Look at Keith Hart. He's magnificent.
Amazing. He kind of looks like a buff beaver, I thought.
Do you know my issue with all this? Right, we have been for weeks and months talking about Lawler and the Hart family, right? They're just desperately now trying to give you a reason to really dislike Shawn Michaels and root for the Hart family here, when Michaels has had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Nothing.
They don't even try and make you believe that Shawn Michaels would have nights for some reason.
Yeah.
They must have done something about Shawn talking about Stu and Helen on like the wrestling challenge or something like that.
It's kind of like they had 1 week of TV or something when they knew that Lawler wasn't going to be able to return for this. So okay, we'll have Michael say something. Now, if this had been down the line, obviously we know that there's going to be friction between Michaels and Bret Hart, but right here, it's very forced.
Imagine they'd done this I was going to say imagine they'd done this around about 1996, 97 would be brilliant.
Yeah.
We could have Bret cutting. Does Bret ever... we'll get to it. Don't jump the gun. There's plenty of time to get to 1996 and find out if Bret cuts a brutal promo on Jose Lothario. I like Michael says he's going to waffle Stu upside the head. I absolutely loves that.
It's the word waffle. It sounded like something Heenan would have said.
That's class. So we go to the ring, and Ray Combs, for some reason, is going to be our... and then poor Finkel, he just gets shoved off any time they get some guy that's been on TV for 5 minutes. He introduces Martha and Georgia Hart. But this isn't the point where... Martha's Owen's wife, isn't she?
Yeah.
And he introduces Helen. Helen gets her very own special introduction. Is that her real hair? Says he didn't.
Brilliant.
Helen looking like, the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be at eating apples through a letterbox.
Oh, Helen.
Ray Combs says that Shawn Michaels is better than average looking.
This Ray Combs. He was so annoying. He's trying to sell me to watch Family Feud.
That's what it is.
I'm not going to watch Family Feud.
Does he start saying stuff like Shawn Michaels, his dad is so stupid, blah, blah. Aye.
Yeah, he's doing all that kind of stuff. Oh, it's terrible.
So this, for me, is probably the main selling point of the pay-per-view, this match.
Definitely.
So let's have a wee chat about the match, because again, this must go as long as, if not longer, than
I think it did.
the 27 minutes.
It didn't feel quite as bad to me because I knew we were going towards something
Aye,
that
there's
was
story
going to
involved
be
in.
important.
Aye.
Yeah.
So it's Brett, Owen, Keith, the firefighting beaver, and the piece of shit Bruce Hart versus Shawn Michaels and his 3 knights. And keep in mind that Brett says, we are going to unmask them, guys. We are going to unmask them. There's a blue knight, a black knight, and a red knight. And you think you've got them pegged as to who they are, don't you?
Yeah, well, I think there was one guy I'd never heard of who was the Black Knight. I know I've got the names for the other two.
The Black Knight was... So I thought the Black Knight was Kane. And you told me that I was incredibly wrong.
Yeah, it's a guy I'd never heard of.
Jeff Gaylord, is that right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. So the Blue Knight is Greg the Hammer Valentine.
Who they look like they've peeled off the couch, by the way.
And the Red Knight is Barry Horowitz.
Yep. Previously seen by us on Raw as a total jobber.
So I think we talked about this offline. The whole idea of unmasking. If there was something of value to be unmasking,
oh my God, that's Barry Horowitz!
If it had even been somebody who'd had a previous alliance with the Harts, or they thought was a good guy or something like that, and would have been on their side against Lawler, and this was a bit of a shock reveal, but nobody's going, oh my God, it's Greg the Hammer Valentine. I can't believe he would go against the Harts. Not so much.
Imagine they'd got 3 guys whose contracts had run out at WCW, and they were all WCW guys.
And that was the way of... He probably would have to not quite job them out the way they were here. Yeah.
Damn it. Fantasy booking. They brought that guy Combs onto commentary, and he was trying to one-up Heenan all the time, and it was just annoying.
Yeah.
Michaels is the MVP of this match.
Yeah.
Like, he's head and shoulders, simply because, nothing to do with like how Brett and Owen looking bad or anything like that, but he's like, he carries Bruce and Keith through the match, and he basically puts in the full shift. His nights are in and out, not really doing very much. He's amazing.
Yeah. There's... I think it's quite early on in this match. You talk about breadcrumbs and Heenan, because he's referring to Owen as the Shadow.
Yes,
because he has lived in Brett's shadow all his life, and it's just there. He's your heel announcer, so you're not really thinking too much of it, but it's just there.
That's class. I don't. I think that is the first time they've ever referenced that as well. Because Vince was like, "What do you mean by that?"
Yeah,
it's brilliant. Keith Hart's a bit of a worker, by the way. I think they say that he previously was a worker, but he obviously knows what he's doing. I mean, all the Harts will know what they're doing, I suppose, won't they?
I don't know if this is... I've got in my notes, Keith is 10 times the wrestler Bruce ever was. And
man.
I don't know if I'm praising Keith or just hating Bruce. It's maybe a bit of both.
I liked Keith was alright, actually. I thought he was... although I've got here, goodness me, I think Keith Hart just snapped the Red Knight's leg. There's a time where Bruce did something where it didn't look particularly great, and he tagged back out, and then he said to Owen on the sidelines, he was just like, fuck.
I think Bruce was hoping that he was going to get signed or something after this. He definitely was. Definitely.
Round about the same time where Ray Combs says, this is painful to watch. Surprised Heenan didn't say, I agree. Heenan keeps coming in with these sort of speaking as the different members of the Hart family. He comes in as Stu saying, Helen, I'm damp.
I love Bobby. He's so good.
What do you think of Brett in the short pink singlet?
It was quite a look. They kind of referenced it, didn't they, on commentary? Why is he dressed different? Well, Heenan's just stirring. Why is he dressed differently? Yep. And Vince is talking about him being the leader of the team. He's the team captain and all that. And again, Heenan's just putting that little thing in your mind. But yeah, no, I mean, it was quite a look. I'm not sure I would have wanted it to be his everyday look, but
Aye,
yeah.
a good novelty look.
Yeah.
There's a good point. There's a good wee point at one time where Shawn comes sliding out the ring. We've said this before, like younger Shawn. I don't know so much about older Shawn Michaels, but young Shawn runs the ropes at like such a ridiculous pace. He comes sliding out the ring to get out the way of someone, and he walks right into a right hand from Stu, which is pretty cool stuff. It's a funny match because the faces end up taking the heels out relatively quickly to the point.
Yeah.
Do they go 4-1 at one point?
Yeah. So
all four versus Michaels.
Yeah. Because Owen's got like his nice missile drop kick off the top to eliminate the Black Knight. I think it's the sharpshooter from Brett that eliminates the Red Knight.
Yes.
And
Owen gets sharpshooting the Blue Knight
to eliminate the Blue Knight. So yeah, it's Shawn on his own against all the Harts, and that's basically where we get to the main part of the storyline.
I wonder if Bruce was like in the back, so, you could put the sharpshooter, then I'll put a sharpshooter on. He definitely was. Piece of shit. We get, by the way, Bruce kicks out a Sweet Chin music. Now, admittedly, at this point, it's not Sweet Chin music. It's just a sort of running super kick, but Bruce still kicks it.
Of course it does.
Is it this? It must be round about 3/4 of the way through where we get the cracks and Owen getting eliminated.
Yeah.
By Shawn.
Yeah. So we've got Brett. What is Brett? Brett's eyes are impaired. He's like, what exactly is it that happened? Did he?
He runs into he gets turfed into turnbuckles, and then something happened.
Shawn rakes Brett's eyes.
Right, okay.
And then Brett, selling the eyes, tags in Owen. Owen goes to put Shawn into the ropes. Shawn reverses it, and Brett is kind of walking along the apron, selling the Vision issue, and Owen hits him. And Brett comes off the outside of the apron onto the guardrail, and all the brothers go to check on Brett, and Owen's kind of like in the ring, like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And gets, I think it's a roll up by Shawn to eliminate Owen, and the brothers are still attending to Brett. Owen is very frustrated and he's shouting at Brett as he's laying there, and then he walks away. And I don't know. Again, we're so different when we're young and watching this. I don't know that I appreciated actually how good a story this is and how well done it is.
I just always thought Owen was a dick.
But it's like, it's not over the top. And they have, like, you could look back and think, God, how frustrating must it be to be the little brother of the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be.
Yep.
And you're good, but there's this guy.
And even, like, Brett doesn't necessarily do anything that wrong, but just that condescending behaviour of him big brothering Owen all the time. Even when Owen's trying to shove him in that after the match, he's just putting his arm around him and that. It's probably making Owen even angrier, which is amazing.
It's so well done. This, like, we'll obviously get further into it. This is just the very start of it. But looking back, I think this is one of my favourite storylines ever.
Amazing. I think you said this was your favourite heel turn. Did you? Maybe all the way back in like our first episode, maybe.
What did we?
Second
I
episode.
think this would definitely have been high on my list. It was, I loved this.
So, after about 50 fucking minutes of this match, Keith decides this is the time to put on an abdominal stretch on Shawn Michaels. After all this has happened. At some point, Michael rolls out the ring and just says, bugger this, and runs up the aisle and gets counted out. And the Harts are acting like, they're acting like how all the faces did at the end of WrestleMania 10. they're celebrating. They've got Brett up and all that, and here comes Owen storming. It's no over the top the way Owen's storming down. It's just what about me sort of thing.
Yeah, he's jogging down, and I think Vince says something like, "Here comes Owen to join the celebration" or something like that. And it's not like you say, it's not an over the top pissed off look on his face, but he does have a look on his face that's a little bit like, it's like a sort of embarrassment, frustration. I'm the only one that didn't finish this match, and
so I'll tell you why I'm laughing in a minute.
Okay. So yeah, Owen comes into the ring and pulls Brett down from the corner. Brett's sort of celebrating on the turnbuckle, and Owen he's pissed off at the one being eliminated, and he's mouthing the words something like, "I don't need you," I think it is. And Brett, like you were talking about before with the big brother in, like putting his arm around, just trying to pull him in for a hug and all that, and he's not having it. He's pissed off, and he's getting booed. And Stu Hart, who's been at ringside, sort of just like, I don't know, a team elder.
Emotionless.
Yeah, just sitting, watching, and he's trying to calm him down, and Owen's screaming that it's always about Brett, and he never gets any recognition. And
That's
it's
amazing.
just
That's brilliant.
such a simple, like you say, he's not gone in and physically attacked him or anything like that. He is a very frustrated little brother. That's what he is right now, and he's having a tantrum. But yeah, not over the top. It's just really well done.
So as this is happening, they keep jumping back and forward to the crowd and showing Helen. And Heenan says, "Is she crying? She's worried they're going to repossess her teeth." Oh dear.
Amazing.
The crowd are quick to start booing Owen, by the way. I thought that was interesting. It's almost like, I don't know, Owen's got something about him that is like unlikable. Yeah, but as a face, he's like total baby face. Total baby face.
And it's funny because it kind of seems like he hasn't had enough exposure to get booed to the extent that he does.
I suppose that gives credence to how over Bret Hart is, I suppose. Todd Pettingill tries to get a word with Owen, but he does not want to talk to anyone. Yeah.
Heenan is delighted. He is thrilled with what he's just seen. He's just so happy.
Amazing. An absolute agent of chaos. Bobby Heenan. So at this point, they show us JR and Gorilla, who are doing the radio show, like you say, and I think they're coming to swap. Yeah, they're going to do wee swapsies with Vince and Heenan are going to go into the radio, and they sort of do some. Well, like Gorilla's like threatening to punch Heenan for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously, when they were the announced team for quite a while for a lot of the pay-per-views, he would get pretty worked up by Heenan. He would get annoyed with the antics, and I assume it's just a carryover that they've always been shown to have had this kind of dynamic between them.
I just always took it as sort of like playful rivalry as opposed to like, I'm going to smack you as you're walking past me sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming they've already planned what's going to happen very soon, very sadly.
So this is just an absolute thing of beauty. We've got JR and Gorilla Monsoon on commentary for the Heavenly Bodies versus the Rock and Roll Express for the Smoky Mountain Wrestling Tag Team belts. What? That's a bizarre thing to be on a marquee WWE pay-per-view. Yeah,
was it the last episode where you were speaking about how Cornette kind of got himself involved, and you know it's spotlighting on a big stage the promotion he's running, so he's got to be happy with that. I think it's pretty different from what you're seeing on the rest of the show. You know, the way the match is presented, everything about it feels pretty different.
It's definitely a nice welcome change of pace.
Yes, which works, I think. So yeah, I was just really surprised when I saw and heard this was going to be on the show. It just seemed weird, but for me it worked because I wasn't enjoying a lot of what else was on the show.
One of my and I'm going to caveat this, but one of my favourite things about the bodies coming out is that Cornette introduces them, and then they come out and they say, "And please welcome the greatest tag team manager in the world, Jim Cornette." Cornette sat on the top rope, and he looks happy as Larry.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he does.
I started going off Cornette actually because he's recently talking about the McMahon thing on Netflix, and he's been pretty consistent on this, as he's always spoke about on his podcast. But talk about the Ring Boy stuff and that, and talk about Pat Patterson, and he's not willing to give it up. Like he's just he's not willing to criticise Pat Patterson or anything like that, which is sad to hear. Anyway, yeah, but we can't let that put us off his behaviour here because he's class as a manager.
I suppose it must be tough when it's people you actually know.
Aye.
Yeah. He, like, we've obviously spoken about Heenan a bit here. In terms of, like, just entertainment value on any show, when you get Cornette, he's probably second only to a Heenan in terms of the entertainment value that they actually bring.
Yep. And you know it's kayfabe admiration whenever Heenan talks about Cornette, but I'm sure it is mutual admiration as well. I feel like Heenan, Heyman, and Cornette are like all of the same ilk sort of thing as far as the way they talk and what they've done as managers and commentary and things like that.
Yeah.
What do you think of this tag team match overall?
I thought it was okay. Like, I thought as a back and forth match, it was fine. Thought, JR, I can see why he was put in this role because he's kind of trying to fill us in on the history as we're going of the feud. Basically, that the Rock and Roll Express have had more with Jim Cornette than with the Heavenly Bodies. But the Heavenly Bodies are his team right now. There's some. I think every time I see them, I think, I bet the Rock and Roll Express were really good to watch in their prime, and we're in '93, which just feels like watching them. It's past their prime a little bit, but they're still, they're entertaining. I think it feels like a bit of a throwback. Even like we're throwing back everything to '93, but from there it feels like it's a bit of a throwback to a more sort of traditional wrestling organisation. I thought it was entertaining enough. What actually happened at the finish? Oh yes, yeah, it was a bit of Cornette shenanigans. That's what was going on at the finish. So yeah, I was trying to remind myself if I enjoyed the finish, and I don't think I hated it. I think I thought it was fine. I thought it was okay. What about you?
I thought I was a bit disappointed. I thought both teams looked a little. I don't know if rusty is the word or if they just weren't gelling, and I can't imagine that should be the case because I assume they've went back and forward multiple times.
I would have thought so, yeah.
And you would have thought that putting them on pay-per-view was a sign of them saying, "Oh, look, they're fine. They'll be fine in the ring. Just stick them in the ring and they'll go." I don't know if it was the Express because we've seen the Heavenly Bodies on pay-per-view and they worked well against Steiners. I think was it SummerSlam?
Yeah.
Jimmy Del Rey did the dance, so everyone goes home happy. I mean, surely in 1993, even in 1993, a double drop kick shouldn't be winning any match.
Yeah, we have sort of questioned that when we saw it previously.
So is that the Bodies? The Bodies had the WWF. No, they didn't. They competed for the titles, didn't they? But they just got the Smoky Mountain ones.
Yeah, so they won the titles after. So Del Rey's on the top turnbuckle. Cornette throws him in the tennis racket. The referee's distracted. Del Rey comes off the top, connects with, I don't know which Rock and Roll member it was, and the Heavenly Bodies get the win. They cheated a little bit, but that's okay because they didn't get caught.
Nice. Classic mark of the heels. That Cornette elegantly throwing his is a tennis racket, badminton racket, up to Jimmy Del Rey reminded me of the time The Rock intercepted the Boss Man's nightstick. It could have was that Survivor Series 98? It could have went so wrong, but it just
played
beautifully.
these guys are obviously, they must have decent coordination about them. The nightstick definitely nearly got away from the Rock. 'Cause I remember thinking, oh, he did well to pull that in.
Aye, that was good. Like I say, a good change of pace, I think. I have decided to just not bother making very many notes for the next match, but I understand why. Aye, okay. So yes, go on.
This is horrible. This is one of the worst things I've seen.
You text me saying that is possibly the worst thing we've ever watched. What's this, episode 88?
Yeah. So, like, the story is supposed to be there's Doink. We've seen, like, other Doinks be revealed on a screen, and Bam Bam, like, being riled up by all that. So Bam Bam's got his team. Bam Bam, the Head Shrinkers,
and Bastion Booger.
Now, I'm not totally sold on Bastion Booger, but Bam Bam and the Head Shrinkers, that's a badass team.
100%. They're just walking through anybody.
Yeah, and then you've got the 4 Doinks, none of whom are Doink.
Now, what's that? When I saw... Aye, sorry, go on.
They're 4 Doinks. There's the Bushwhackers must have been a last minute, right, we're going to have to come up with something here situation. So I believe that the guy that was playing Doink was suspended. Not fired, but suspended. And
really?
May have originally have planned to have been him, another Doink, and Men on a Mission.
Oh, for Christ's sake.
But they've had to sub in the Bushwhackers to replace Doink and other Doink.
Who would the other Doink be? Do you not know?
So I think it may well have been, because when we get to WrestleMania 10, there's 2 of them in the ring, isn't there? So I think they kind of always had this plan of bringing a second Doink, and it may have just happened here rather than at WrestleMania. So I can't remember who played him. The other one, I'm sure I've known it.
Brooklyn Brawler, is it?
I think that's right. Yeah. So yeah, they've ended up. It's the 4 Doinks, as in the Bushwhackers and Men on a Mission. We've also got Men on a Mission's manager with a Doink thing on the go. I hated this, and I hated it for multiple reasons. I don't care about Men on a Mission. I've talked about this before.
We hate Men on a Mission.
I just don't. There's nothing about it that I enjoy watching.
That seems really harsh, eh?
Yeah.
But
yeah. I'm not as a. Maybe this is my fault for being 43. I'm not into watching the Bushwhackers on a pay-per-view. I'm kind of done with that.
Even as a child, I knew that Bushwhackers were glorified jobbers.
Yeah.
Please don't lick my child. If I come to a wrestling show and I'm in the front row, I've bought tickets for the front row, do not lick my child. That'd
be quite problematic now, I would think, if that kind of thing was going on. Now, I'm looking at these 2 teams, and Mabel is a massive guy. He's scary big. But I'm thinking, right, this is nonsense. Bam Bam and the Head Shrinkers just run through this assembly of absolute nonsense, and I can get on with my life. But no. We're going to instead make absolute fools of the Head Shrinkers in particular, I thought.
Mm-hmm. Especially Samu.
Yeah. Is it Samu that slips on the banana?
Yep. It's bad enough that he slips on a banana peel, but before he does it, he looks down to make sure that he's where he needs to be standing, then stands on the banana peel, then falls over.
We've got Luke, like, biting Bastion Booger on the ass as he's walking about. And I actually looked at a point and I thought, is that drawn blood? And I thought, no, it'll just be the clown makeup that's come off onto his get-up. And I was quite relieved when I thought of that. Alpha's outside biting balloons and making those pop. And when Samu bursts a balloon, it bursts and some stuff comes out. I don't know. And then Samu gets pinned, I think, as soon as that happens. He's rolled up and pinned. I hated this for the Head Shrinkers. For me, the Head Shrinkers should be going on and competing for the tag team titles as absolute terrifying badasses.
Steiners versus Head Shrinkers?
Yeah.
Shut up.
And, yeah, this is just annoying nonsense.
Bastion Booger doing that dance doesn't help. It doesn't help his character. What is his character? Like, fat... What?
Because, loads of them are occupation type things. I don't think being a booger is... is a job.
We want you to be. You're gonna be disgusting. We've not even mentioned their promo before the match, where the Head Shrinkers, Booger, Afa, and Bam Bam's main squeeze Luna are all just. They're not eating turkey. They're like throwing it and rubbing it all over themselves, whilst Bam Bam's trying to cut a promo.
There's a bit just after that and before the match starts where they're talking about the Superstar of the Year, which is another phone-in thing that they're absolutely milking people for. And Heenan says, "Booger's my pick," and he's just like really happy saying it and looking at Vince, who
Amazing.
just looks a bit disgusted by what he said.
Who actually won that? Is it? I take it Doinks won that match. Eh?
Yeah. So actually, they all survive.
Oh,
So it's a whitewash.
the
as
first
a match.
the Bushwhackers have ever won on pay-per-view.
Yeah, Mabel squashes Booger and pins him. Butch pins Fatu. Butch. And Mabel squashing Bam Bam, and then they all pile on top of Bam Bam to make the cover. I can't see how that's legal, but the ref counts it.
That's disgusting.
So it's a clean sweep for the team of Doinks.
As Vince says very often, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Okay, we go backstage with Todd Pettingill. He is with the Foreign Fanatics. Jim Cornette cuts an absolute masterclass of
Brilliant.
a promo. He refers to what are they called? The American Alliance or something like that.
Yeah.
He refers to them as the heart. He talks about the heart, the mind, and the soul. And like that's how you would break a man down, as the heart, the mind, the soul. Talks about Steiner's being the heart of the Americans, Undertaker's the mind and the mind games, and Luger's the soul. And it's just untouchable.
Can you? He's obviously got a really good mind for the business. Do you think anyone's feeding him anything that he needs to even say? As here's some things we need you to include, or do you think he's just like, I've got this, got this, don't worry.
I don't know. I genuinely don't know. What do you think? Do you think that's just him?
I think it's just him. Yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, I can imagine what the reaction would probably be if there was some like writer saying, "Here's what you're to say, Jim."
Thank you, fuck you, bye.
Yeah, but no, I feel like sometimes you can tell because it's like everything he's saying, he believes because he's so good at delivery that you do believe he stands by everything he's saying. And to me, I just don't think it could have been anyone else. I think that's all come from him. He's maybe ran it by somebody. Like this is basically what I'm going to say, but it's just so well done. It's one of the best talkers the business has ever seen.
Yeah, that's maybe one of the best pre-match cut promos I think I've ever seen from managers. It's truly amazing.
Nice.
We didn't get the all. Oh, it's the All Americans. We don't get a promo for them, do we?
No, nothing from them.
I mean, they've not got the many. Steiners are now really going to cut a promo.
Yeah, who would actually do it? There's
Undertaker. Yeah. So this is our main event, isn't it? So we've got the Foreign Fanatics, which we've said has been quite a fairly decent. They've done a good job of building all these different intertwined storylines. So we've got Crush, Yokozuna, Ludwig Borga, and one of the Jacques of the Quebecers. And they're taking on Luger, Undertaker, and the Steiners. I've much more enjoyed the build and the weeks of build that they put into this than I did the match, but I thought the Steiners looked cool in their American themed outfits. Yeah,
I was wondering if quite early on if Rick Steiner got hurt.
I think so as well. He got dropped on his head.
Yeah, it looked like something wasn't right, and then he was eliminated pretty quickly.
He tried to kick out at 2.
Yeah, he did.
When he got pinned. Yeah. It was, who was it? It was Borga. Borga. Like tried to power slam him coming off the ropes or something like dropped him right in his head.
I assume somebody in there's just made a decision. Yeah, his match needs to be over now.
I think Rick was doing good. Like Rick shoulder tackled Yoko a few times and knocked him out the ring.
Yeah.
Which was a shame. They had Crush coming out to Yokozuna's music, which was weird.
They've referenced right at the start of this that Savage has been thrown out of the building, by the way.
Does he get involved in this? No.
Yeah.
Amazing. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
But
it's basically,
almost as soon as they say he's been thrown out of the building, he starts coming out, does he not?
It's basically the same. It's the same thing that happened in the earlier match.
Okay. So Rick gets knocked out with Crush and Scott, and it's at this point to say that it was Savage, and then he appears.
Yeah.
And you've got like 400 referees trying to contain.
Yeah, so Savage has appeared and Crush is distracted like Savage was earlier. I've referenced somewhere here, Taker, it just seems really weird to see him just standing on the apron waiting. It's like a tag environment in this era for me is really weird for Undertaker. When he's like, American Badass or leading some sort of satanic cult, I get it a bit more, but just now when he's just the dead man, it seems odd. But Scott Steiner drop kicks Crush, who goes out of the ring, and then that Savage and Crush are going to go at it. They're going to brawl.
What a build. To the time these two eventually get in the ring in a singles match, it's an unbelievable build.
So Crush gets counted out, and for quite a while the officials are just trying to stay between the two of them. And then I think quite quickly from there, Luger pins Jacques.
Oh, they have Scott in for a while, and they try to get Luger in a hot tag, but Luger's going at like a total snail's pace when he gets a hot tag. But he eliminates Jacques.
So we're down to Luger, Scott Steiner, and Taker against Yokozuna and Borga.
I think they had some with Borga, by the way. Yeah,
they definitely did. They were protecting him and building him and all that, and he gets he suplexes Scott Steiner off the top.
Aye, that's it looks impressive.
And then Yoko comes in, drops a big leg, and that's Scotty Steiner eliminated, and we're down to 2-on-2.
And it's here where the storytelling goes a little bit array, because Luger's been built as the man.
Yeah.
And pretty much carrying the company, and we know that Vince thought he'd be his next Hogan and all that sort of stuff. At some point between SummerSlam and Survivor Series, somebody said, we're going Undertaker, Yokozuna.
Yeah.
Because Luger just takes an absolute beating whilst Taker stands on the apron waiting for a tag.
Yeah, so Taker's never been tagged in the match. He's just been stood on the apron the entire time. And yeah, they even reference in the match, which makes it weirder how that exchange plays out, that Luger never got his return match from his SummerSlam countout win. So when they're saying things like that, you're thinking, oh, these two are going to come head to head, and it's going to be, a real contest, and maybe Luger will get the better of it, and then that'll be further reason. But obviously, we know that's not the way that they're going to go. And finally, Taker he's going to tag in after, I think Yoko charges the corner, Lex moves, Yoko hits the corner hard, Taker in, hits a big DDT on Yoko, and Borga tries to interfere, and he has been built and protected, but Undertaker seems to take care of him absolutely no problem. It's just knocking him
know your role.
Yeah.
Brilliant. There's something about this version of Undertaker sitting up as just always looks cool.
Yeah. It never worked quite as well in the later years for me when he was doing it. It's like looking like this absolutely beat up, destroyed old man. He's trying his best to do the setup, and you're like, come on.
Remember that match where him and Brock Lesnar? Well, Lesnar starts laughing when Taker sits up, and Taker's like looking like bug-eyed, laughing back at him.
Yeah,
that's horrible.
Yoko hits a suplex, and Taker just sits back up, and this is where you realise, if it hasn't been very clear before, they are pivoting the story, because Yoko is selling being scared of Undertaker.
It's almost like he saw that spider in his hotel room.
Oh, poor Yoko. Uh, he hits the banzai drop and he goes to do it again. And as he's up on the ropes, Taker sits up. Yoko hits the mat. Flying clothesline by Taker. Yoko rolls out. He puts the Undertaker's head into the steps and he just stands straight back up. And yeah, he's proper selling being terrified as well. He does a good job of it, Yoko. The fear he's got on his face.
Did you wonder if Hogan ever saw the Undertaker gimmick and saw as it was playing out, and it was like, brother, he's taking my gimmick, no selling everything.
Maybe. So both men end up being counted out, and every bit of you watching it now knows we're going Yoko and Undertaker, and we're left with Borga and Luger, and we've got Borga for a while. He's absolutely dominating Lex Luger. Vince hates the foreign arrogance of Borga. Borga
generic racism.
Luger uses it kind of looked a bit like he used the forearm. And Cornette and Johnny Polo are tied up with the ref as Fuji enters the ring. Didn't go to look after his boys, just stuck around. Fuji hands Borga it's like a wooden bucket thing.
It's the salt bucket, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it, yeah. He smacks Luger's head with it. The ref missed all of this. Borga gets the cover. Luger kicks out before Earl Hebner's even began his count. Luger now, he's fully hulked up. He's punching away. He just loves America so damn much that he can't stop. And there's a big DDT. Big DDT by Luger, power slam for a 2, and then he hits the metal plate forearm for the win, and that's
How can he keep getting away with this? It's unacceptable. Is this what America is? Is this what it wants to be represented by?
This is it. So yeah, he's the sole survivor, but probably it must be a little bit bittersweet for him, because as soon as he's read the script and found out what's going on in this match, he knows he's not getting the title match at the Royal Rumble anyway.
And then he's one-upped by the Big Red Machine, who comes out at the end. Santa Claus is here.
I desperately tried to find out if anyone of any significance was playing Santa Claus in this, and it didn't seem to be popping up anywhere.
Bruce.
Anything for a bit of screen time.
A pay-per-view payment. Why the fuck did they bring out Santa Claus in November?
It was really weird. So I think they maybe did do this a couple of years in a row for Survivor Series. I'm not sure if this was the second time or the first time, but I don't know. It feels too early. I am a Christmas guy, but I'm a Christmas guy come December. I'm not a Christmas guy in November. They're only just celebrating Thanksgiving right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's possibly a bit disrespectful to be bringing out Santa. Well, imagine Luger fucking rattled him with a forearm. That could have been an awesome heel turn.
Maybe that's what they should have done, because right now, from this moment, it feels like he's going nowhere. It just feels like, what do you do with him now?
Oh, it gets worse for him, because the following Raw, they do this Superstar of the Year, and Vince says he's going to break with tradition and bring out the runner-up, and it's Luger, and they have him present Bret Hart with a trophy.
I wonder, again, they've done this phone line thing, and I kind of assumed they've gone with the actual results as who's winner and who's runner-up. And I bet when the idea was floated, Vince has thought, Luger, they'll vote for Luger. Then he's probably heard, Bret won quite convincingly. What? He's a tag team guy.
Amazing. What do you think? The Survivor Series wasn't it great? Was it? What was your favourite match?
My favourite match would be the Harts and the Shawn and his Knights, purely because I thought Shawn put in a good performance. Mm-hmm. I thought Owen in his role was absolutely perfect, and so was Bret. You know, it needed both. It needed Brett
Aye.
to be that not over the top reaction to what Owen was doing,
Yep.
but that sort of, I'll put him back in his place, sort of pat on the head type situation. So yeah, I think for the story and for how well it was executed by those guys, that was my favourite thing by a distance on the show. I did like that they kept the dynamic going between Savage and Crush without feeling the need to shoehorn them into the same match.
Nice.
So I like that.
I like that too. I thought, who was it that got injured? Pierre? Was it? Yeah, Pierre
Yeah.
of the Quebecers got injured. And no, is that when they put in Crush?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
but then Tatanka got injured. That's when
Yeah.
they put in Undertaker. They could have put Savage in there.
Yeah.
But it means that they have to come face to face in the ring, and I think that the way that they're building the anticipation of us wanting to see them in the ring is probably better than actually seeing them in the ring.
Yeah.
I think they've done an amazing job of making us feel like Crush is a main eventer, or same with Borga, but more so Crush.
Yeah, nice.
Okay, following Raw, like we say, there's this. Is it? Yeah, they do this Superstar of the Year presentation. They have Luger come out and they tell him that he's the runner-up. And he's talking about, they don't hand him an envelope or anything like that, but he's like, and I'm going to present this, and he starts talking, and he's talking about like all the great qualities that this person's got, and the camera cuts to Heenan, and he looks like an Oscar, he's at the Oscars and he's waiting for his name to be said.
He's selling it so well, like how excited he is, and how he really thinks it's going to be him, and his reaction when it's not. Brilliant.
So he announces it's Brett, and it almost seems like Brett is like sort of playing for time with his promo. I don't know what his promo's all about, but it's awful. He basically thanks everybody and their granny apart from Owen, and I assume that's the point.
Yeah, he definitely, as well, he's like repeating himself a little bit. It was odd. It was almost like he's started thinking, oh, I was supposed to say this. Have I said this? You know, we talked before about when a promo sounds scripted. This didn't sound like it was something that Brett came up with as, this is my idea, we'll do this as part of the build for all this. This came across as very much a Vince thing. Oh, this is maybe an opportunity for you not to acknowledge Owen when you get your award. Go and do that. And it's like, right. Okay.
What I was thinking with this, though, was that if this is breadcrumbs for a kind of Luger-Brett rivalry for the top spot sort of thing, where it's kind of like baby faces who both want to be the best, then touche if that is what they're doing, because I quite admire that.
Yeah. You know what we got on this show, which it stunned me to see it. It wasn't the best match you'll ever see. We got Razor Ramon against Diesel.
Aye. How weird is that?
Yeah.
I've got that in my notes. What is this pay-per-view worthy treat we're getting here?
Yeah.
But in foreshadowing of what we would get from like 2001 through to 2024, it's just a facade of a match because Michaels comes running in and
Michaels attacks Razor, and then 1-2-3 Kid literally leaps to Razor's defense.
Oh, nice.
And we're left thinking, okay, this is going to be a tag team situation on the go here. I don't mind it. I'm fine with it. I think it makes the whole Michaels with the Hearts thing seem even more random. Like, okay, that's done now. Now back to a storyline regarding the Intercontinental title here. So yeah, I'm happy. Like those. I always preferred Diesel and Ramon when they were together rather than when they're opposing each other. Like it's a ridiculously big headline match nowadays if you think about it. At the time, Diesel wasn't that established, not as a singles performer. But yeah, it's just interesting to see them up against each other on a Raw. These guys must have been having a hell of a lot of fun just doing all this angle.
This is the whole thing of like the people saying like the Clique just wanted to work with each other. That's what this sort of screams of a little bit. Eh?
Yeah.
I want you to try and picture something in your head, right? So at this point, email probably wasn't a thing, so you probably had paper memos or something like that. So Jack Tunney comes into work, maybe a secretary gets him a cup of coffee. What have I got today? Oh, I've got a few memos, a few bits of paperwork to go through. Okay, right, I need to decide if Macho Man Randy Savage can stay on commentary. He's been getting involved in things and stuff like that. I'll take a decision on that. Right, what else have I got? Maybe a phone in to come up with or something like that. Should there be more than one Doink, Jack? Oof, that's a thinker.
That is a tricky one for Jack. Is that what there's something that it seems to be taking him an absolute age to make a decision on. I can't remember if it's that's referenced or if it's Savage returning, because it seems like there's some decisions he makes just like that at the drop of a hat, and I have a funny feeling Heenan even accuses him of that. Like, didn't take him long to decide to suspend Shawn Michaels, but you try and keep Savage out of here, he's bringing him back the next day, that kind of thing.
Now, see, the thing is, at this point in time, J.J. Dillon is working backstage for WWF. If they just got him on screen, he can make a decision at drop of a hat. Now, granted, he would delegate to Rowdy Roddy Piper, but nevertheless, he would make a decision. So Jack Tunney has ruled that there can only be one Doink, which is an odd ruling. Where was he when the fake Razor Ramon and fake Diesel were getting unveiled?
It's an odd one to... if that's your hill to die on, if it's the last thing I ever accomplish in this business, there will be only one Doink.
So we see Doink being presented as Santa gets about. Santa presents Doink with a smaller version of himself, and I didn't recognise the guy that was on the microphone here, did you? Like a more handsome Rick Rude. But he says, "Oh, but Doink, there can only be one of you." And Doink says, "Well, I'll call him Dink." And that was it. We have Dink introduced.
For me, this is probably where I lose a bit of interest in the Doink storyline. I didn't need Dink.
Oh, come on. We get a Doink match. Is it the next episode? We get a Doink match where, like, Dink's like crawling along the side of the apron
and stuff like that, and running away through legs and things.
Doing like a little horn in the referee's ear as he's made in the pit. And you don't like it. Okay, I'll stop.
We got a Owen Hart against a jobber here, and they're the crowd are booing Owen, who I think at this point still hasn't spoken about everything that's gone on, and the fans are absolute assholes.
Do you think they've been told?
They're chanting, "We want Brett."
That's disgusting.
Like, I'm maybe going to be Team Owen here.
Like,
I am a younger brother, and I think maybe I can
sympathise.
Yeah.
There's no grey area for these fans that would be chanting, "We want." Like, where's the nuance of thinking through this? But nah, I like that Owen came out with the glasses on. He gives them to some young lady, and he wins with a sharpshooter as well. So we're getting.
He puts on a bit of a show. He's doing a lot of his, he does his missile drop kick. He's winning with a sharpshooter. He's got there's a nice insecurity at some point in there. So some classic Owen moves.
I do much prefer this version of Owen to the like 97, 98, where he just sort of became. It's like he couldn't break out from sort of through that glass ceiling of mid-carder intercontinental level.
Yeah. We've got Heenan trying to speak to Owen, who asks him, when Heenan just asks him immediately what went through his mind when Brett was given his Superstar of the Year trophy, and Owen's saying nothing. And he asks him what happened at last night at Survivor Series, and Owen's just not. He's not in the mood to talk right now.
I like that the camera, so Heenan's like waiting at the corner of the ring, and they clock Owen seeing Heenan, and he genuinely looks like, "Oh, for fuck's sake."
Class.
We get Ludwig Borga versus Scotty 2 Taylor. Borga is like, he just walks in the ring, goes straight for him, and he has to get past Howard Finkel to do it, and Heenan says, "I wish he'd nailed Finkel on the way by." Seems pretty harsh. They're during this match, they're laying it on thick with the Monsoon Heenan stuff. They say that, did I miss Monsoon phoning in, or did they miss it?
think it did happen. I think it was there, and they were. He's just basically sort of telling Heenan off and all that kind of thing, because it feels like it's escalated quite quickly and quite suddenly. Now, obviously, there's reasons for that. That unfortunately, the very next one's going to be Heenan's last Raw, and it's a very appropriate way, I think, for him
that's good,
to finish. But yeah, Heenan's saying he's going to knock Monsoon out next week.
Oh dear. We get a weird interview with Razor Ramon and the 1-2-3 Kid with Vince, but they're just doing it on they're speaking to them as they're sat at the side of the ring. Razor Ramon refers to Michaels as Vince's boy toy.
Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
And then 1-2-3 Kid refers to Michaels as Mr. Michaels.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, come on, you're laying this sort of young guy thing on a bit thick, and then Heenan's like, oh, Mr. Michaels. I think
so we're gonna have Kid against Michaels next week.
Aye, I thought they were going to say they were going to have the tag team match. Did you?
Yeah, so yeah.
Aye. Okay, so we get to the next episode, and they're building this angle between Razor and Michaels. Interesting that they're not building it around Intercontinental title, really.
Yeah.
And that takes us into Michaels versus 1-2-3 Kid. What?
How, 1-2-3 Kid? He's 21 here.
Is he really? Wow.
Yeah. He looks so young. Like, if somebody had told me he was 16, I would have believed it. Like, he just looks so young.
Isn't he supposed to have started wrestling when he was 16?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Mental.
So yeah, we're going to have the match, and I was quite enthusiastic for this. I thought this should be quite good. I think it was quite good, actually.
I think it was as well. Enjoyed
the majority, and then we're going to get an interruption, which you would expect, I think, given everything that's been going on. But they have quite a good exchange. That, again, in this era, you probably don't have Michaels being the bigger guy all that often, and 1-2-3 Kid is such a good seller that Michaels is able to do some things that he wouldn't normally do. But 1-2-3 Kid's getting his stuff in as well, and it's interesting. You've got, I always remember there was a 1-2-3 Kid and Brett match, where Brett probably gave him so much offense that the old timers would have been screaming about what Bret Hart was doing, but it made 1-2-3 Kid look legit. It made him look like a proper that level performer, and I think Michaels has given him a lot here as well. He's obviously got talent. He's always had talent. Sean Waltman, just never any kind of size about him, but he's good, and he's quick. And his offense, to me, is always realistic with what he's doing with it.
Totally.
So I was really enjoying this, and then obviously we're going to get an interruption.
And we've not really got just in what you're saying about Michaels being a bigger guy. We've also not had matches where you've seen Kid being able to wrestle. He's doing headlock takedowns and controlling and stuff like that. I thought it was class. I might actually go back and watch it again. I really enjoyed it.
Nice.
But like you say, Michaels starts hitting multiple Razor's edges on Kid, try to send a message. Razor comes out, and as Michaels try to do another one, he pulls him from out of the ring. Michael slaps the shit out of him on the side outside the ring. Razor starts chasing Michaels around the ring, up the aisle, and as they get to the curtain, you just see this large right hand. I don't know if it was stuffed full of money in the hand, or I thought that might have been the indication that it was in fact Kevin Nash, but now they're saying that it was Diesel's right hand, and this was a setup to take down Razor. Quite liked it.
Yeah, enjoyed this, and I like the story. We've obviously had Diesel being a corner man for Michaels for a little while. It makes sense that it's a totally different scenario given the sizes, but Razor's got somebody there who's got his back, and they can have their tag team exchanges and things like that, and they're all Diesel in a very different way. They've all got something about them as talents. Diesel's just cool. He's just really, really cool.
Aye, 100%. So after Razor gets, where did 1, 2, 3 Kid go? Is he just sort of laid out? He must be,
Yeah.
Michaels just starts hitting Razor's edges on Razor Ramon. Fair play, he's a big lad, Scott Hall.
I was quite impressed he got him into the position for doing the Razor's edges, and then I was thinking, it can't be that, nice taking those on the ramp like that. But no, I mean, it legit sold you as, that probably was a pretty savage beatdown right there.
No. Our next match is the Quebecers squash a couple of jobbers. They put one of the guys in a chair and wreck him. I don't know what the significance. Yeah. Johnny Polo's got like a chair with him. Yeah. It felt like the main point of this match was for Vince to tell Heenan that the phone call that they got from Gorilla Monsoon was from a local number, and he's like he takes it in for a little bit, and then he's like, "Wait, what?" Like that. That was good. What did you think about they do an interview with Owen, and Owen says that he's got a surprise for everybody that'll make everyone talk about him and not Brett.
Yeah. The only thing is, how you're going to pay that off, or what that's going to be, because I know where we're going to be at the Rumble.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
I can picture, I'm sure we've talked about this before, I can picture a split screen with Owen and Brett, and one of them sitting by like a fire with like Christmas stockings, and Owen's really angry at Brett. So they must go more into this rivalry and then come together for the Rumble, and then we know what happens. So, yeah, I kind of think what that would be there. Imagine he signed with like Harvey Whippleman or something like that, how like disappointing that would be.
Yeah, that'd be terrible.
Should have got Keith in his corner with his abdominal stretch.
Keith would be fine as long as it wasn't Bruce. Hey, we're in the. Is it into the Doink against Tony DeVito?
Yep.
So this is where we've got Dink doing his stuff, but that wasn't really what leapt out at me about this. Vince is talking. Like, you know how he's talking about film premieres and stuff like that are going to be on the network that we're on. He speaks about Star Wars like a man that has never seen or even heard of Star Wars.
Oh, amazing. What does he say?
It's just like he's talking about the wars for the galaxy and stuff like that, and you're like probably the only person in the world at that point who hadn't seen Star Wars.
You can imagine that he definitely wouldn't have seen it the way.
But did you ever hear the story? It was back when I enjoyed the podcast a little bit more, when Freddie Prinze Jr. used to talk about his old experiences as a writer, and he said that he was on the plane going from city to city after a Raw or something like that, and he just wanted to watch something funny or something like that, so he put a movie on and he's just watching it, and Vince is like, what are you watching there? And he's like, oh, it's just, it's my favourite comedy film, whatever. It's like, we do comedy, and he's like, but it was almost like Vince doesn't watch anything that isn't somehow directly related to WWE programming, and I think that's what Freddie Prinze Jr. genuinely thought. He was like, oh, this is weird, yeah. And he's basically trying to explain to him that after I've just done a wrestling show, just been there and written all these bits for a wrestling show, the last thing I want to watch is wrestling in that moment. I'm done. I need a little bit of downtime, and Vince did not get it at all.
Anderson, get this guy off the plane. Just stick a parachute on him, chuck him out the window. That's class.
So yeah, I can fully believe he'd never seen Star Wars.
I like the idea of him being like completely baffled by him saying that we do comedy. What do you mean? I love that. Well, there's not much I love about Vince anymore, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we never mentioned it from the last Raw, but in the last Raw, Jeff Jarrett was waiting to see some bigwig in the country music, Buddy Lee, who was a writer for Hank Williams Jr. He's waiting to meet him, but he gets launched out of his office.
Yeah.
This time he is with another country music. Is this gentleman with a saxophone? Was he he's like a known?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Guy. Where up in. I think you were hoping to see Jeff Jarrett post Survivor Series in the ring, but he's still.
I'm done with these now. I enjoyed them at the start. They've been a bit samey, a lot of them. I'm done. I'm ready.
And well, I'm sure the thumbnail for the next Raw was Jeff Jarrett wrestling.
Right.
So, our next match is Crush taking on a guy called Tony Roy, who we've never seen before. He looks exactly like Buffalo Bill for the Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, he did.
Terrifying. He's like smiling at the camera. He had something, Tony Roy.
We've got Savage on the phone, probably with the worst connection we've had so far from somebody being on the phone.
Aye. He is on a UK tour, and Heenan says we can hardly hear him because he's hiding under the covers because he's scared of Crush, which is good stuff. There wasn't much to this. This was maybe about the first falter that I've thought that they've done with the Macho Man Crush stuff. That it's almost like they're trying to revisit what they've done before, which is fair enough. It worked well.
Yeah.
And Vince informs Heenan during this match that Gorilla is somewhere nearby. And I'm fairly sure just as he does, he starts walking down the aisle, does he?
Yes. This made me sad because I knew what was happening. You'd actually messaged me before I watched this saying something like, Bobby Heenan leaves WWE on X date. And I remember when I clicked on the Raw, I thought, oh no, that's this one.
As soon as they sort of squared up at Survivor Series, you're just like, oh no. Our favourite thing about watching these shows is going.
I do not know how they're going to replace him. Because like he has kept the show going. There's been good stories. Like, we've enjoyed the Savage and Crush stuff, generally speaking. And I can see getting a bit of traction with Michaels and Razor and what's going to happen there, and particularly with Brett and Owen. But I just hope they've got somebody who can add to these things just with what they're talking about, rather than somebody that ruins my enthusiasm for all of it.
So that sounds like you don't know who it's going to be. So I assumed it was Monsoon, but then I think that the issues that kept Jerry Lawler out of Survivor Series, they fell pretty quickly.
Yeah, paid them off, I think, made them go away.
Really?
So I think
could be King.
I think it might well be. Yeah, we'll see.
It is gutting though. I would have quite liked to have JR and Heenan together. I think Heenan makes Vince tolerable. I have concerns about anybody else going forward with Vince.
Yeah, same.
It's so funny that he puts himself out there because he wants to be. Is it that he wants to be the person giving the message, and then that way, if he's there, then he can control the message?
And it is odd because he's never been a great announcer. Like, he's not great at talking about what's going on in the ring. He might be good at explaining or hitting the right points of the overall story and where we're going and why this is important and stuff like that. But when you think about, and maybe this is just my mind favourably remembering things, I remember JR being brilliant at telling stories, like absolutely fantastic at telling them. And they've got him like doing the radio show thing. But actually, Vince must do this for quite a while, because I think JR ends up at the announce desk with Vince and King for a period of time. I think there's a 3-person announce desk,
right.
But I don't know if that's going to be soon or if that's maybe more heading towards sort of 96, 97.
Aye. No. Well, we'll see, I guess. We'll see.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, that's kind of like our stopping point. We've got a bunch of Raws to look forward to take us on the path to Royal Rumble.
Should we say how Heenan has his goodbye?
Oh, yeah, sorry, I totally forgot. Yeah.
So Monsoon walks up towards the announce desk. Vince is stirring the pot. He's far worse than Heenan ever was with any of this. Monsoon tells Heenan that he's won a free trip, and he grabs him by the collar and then picks him up. And I'm like, watch his neck, Monsoon.
Mm.
Heenan's begging him to leave him alone, but Monsoon's kind of dragging him away. Heenan begging, Monsoon telling him it's too late for apologies. And we go through the backstage area. Monsoon points out all his stuff just sitting out there, and I think he throws a bag out himself, and he's saying all his stuff's here. Everything he owns? Poor Bobby. I would have hoped he'd been in the business long enough to have a nice house. So his bags are thrown out, and he's thrown out of a fire exit. He does a brilliant. He's like stumbling on his own bag,
All
and then
over
it's on his foot, and he can't shake it off, and he's knocking all his stuff all over the places, and then takes I think a tumble at a point in time, and he looks back and he salutes the building, and then that's him.
It's really quite sad, isn't it?
It was that, like, I believe from what I've read, he had every intention of retiring. He decided he was done, and he was walking away, and then he gets a phone call, and it's, money he cannot turn down to go into WCW. I think from the sounds of it, like even the stuff Schiavone says in his podcast, I don't know that Heenan was ever happy in WCW. I think if he'd been able to have the same kind of schedule in WWE that they had in WCW, he would have happily kept working there. He just physically, I think, didn't feel like he could do it anymore.
Oh man, it's devastating.
Mm-hmm.
But at least we did, like you say, we managed to, and we've watched a lot of WCW pay-per-views that he was on, and we've been entertained by him.
Yeah.
I keep thinking about that time where Schiavone is talking and like Heenan spins around in his chair and ignores anything he's saying, and it's supposedly a shoot that he just couldn't be arsed listening to Schiavone. I do that.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Champion.
Yeah.
And so that'll lead us to the Royal Rumble. We're benefiting from a severe lack of pay-per-views, aren't we, as far as story building is concerned?
Yeah,
I'm story building.
To see how this we've got, I think, 6 Raws between now and the Rumble, and obviously we know some of the things they're going to be building. We know they're going to be working towards Taker and Yokozuna.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious to see, just because, like we mentioned earlier, where we are at the Rumble with Owen and Brett, but the stuff before that, how heated and intense does it get before things maybe calm down? Curious to see how that goes. And even like Owen speaking about it, I don't remember that. I don't know if he's gonna, or if he just keeps being quite aloof about everything. So yeah, keen to see how they go with that. And it feels like, although they're doing it in a tag way, that they're kickstarting the Razor and Shawn thing, which is good as well.
Excellent. Cool. Do you want to touch on Mr. McMahon, or oh dear, that's terrible wording, isn't it? Would you like to discuss Mr. McMahon, or have you not finished it yet?
So I have finished it,
but I don't want to discuss it.
Like, I didn't know really what to expect in terms of what it would be, because Netflix have just signed a big deal to be showing WWE programming, and this was in the works for such a long time that this had started before certainly the most recent set of allegations came out against Vince McMahon. I just find it all troubling. Like, watching it, trying to, it's so clear from a lot of the stuff that he's saying to me that he has things that he knows he shouldn't say or talk about. And then some of the stuff he then comes out with, though, I'm like, oh, but he said that. Mm-hmm. That's kind of weird.
The stuff he said about Rita Chatterton, like, I take it, like, for example, that.
Yeah. The way he worded that, I was, wow. Nobody speaks like that.
That just came out, like, too natural. That's him, I think.
Yeah. And, I always wonder about, and you see this, I think, in various sort of walks of life where people end up with a lot of power, and like they feel untouchable. They feel like they can do whatever they want, and probably have for a significant period of time done whatever they wanted with no consequence, and then it just gets worse and worse and worse and spirals out of control. And I'm watching thinking, I'm assuming that is what's happened, but then some of the stuff that you hear being talked about is decades ago, and you're like, well,
the stuff there was only about 5 minutes on Ashley Massaro, and that stuff alone was horrible. And there's so much more they could touch on, but the footage they show of the storyline that she's like a klutz and she drops stuff on him and he's like screaming in her face as a punishment is horrid.
Yeah,
the person I think I came out, which is saying something, but the person I came out feeling really sorry for is Shane McMahon.
Even though he ruined that Royal Rumble.
Even though he wanted to go over and like gorilla press Brock Lesnar to the sky. But I felt such a shame for him. The way he was.
Then I wonder if he is actually better off. You know, like if you take Stephanie as the other child of Vince's point of view, who has been so embedded in the business and working with Vince day by day, week by week, and never really, I know she's taken hiatuses and I think has been away officially for a while, but never really gone off and just done their own thing, whereas Shane's gone off and done his own businesses and things like that. And I think maybe part of it just desperate to prove himself, which is a shame that he's felt he's had to do that. But I do wonder if you're better off having just got yourself out of that and done your own thing.
I think you're right. I think if you said which one would you rather be, then because Stephanie's almost like a carbon copy of her dad, although she seems to have her own sort of.
And I think if you hear people speak about her, like people in the business, they tend to be pretty complimentary about how she treats people. But there's obviously, you know, I think I imagine there's a bit of a ruthless side.
I suppose when I say I feel sorry for Shane, I admire the way that he comes across in this thing, because he seems like he's a dad now, and he's. It's just the stuff about all I wanted was a bit of recognition, a pat in the back, a cuddle, I love you, I'm proud of you, and all that. And JR says a lot of the same stuff in his book. The thing that bothers me about that is, and plenty of people, you know, that is their story and their relationship with their dad and all that sort of stuff. But it's all these wrestlers going, Vince was a father figure to me. That's where I feel sorry for him, I think.
Like, I think the thing about that is, he's a very, you know, in many, many ways, a very manipulative person. And that side almost came across as, well, but I need something from that guy. I don't need anything from you, Shane. You know, whether you make it or not. That's and basically, but the story Heyman told about Vince and his exchange with Shane, I found that pretty unsettling. And I suppose it can go different ways. Like, if people have, like Vince obviously didn't have a great relationship with his dad and didn't know him for several years and then was always trying to win over his approval, and that seems to have been the way he's decided to go, wouldn't you have thought you would go the other way?
Yeah. And so many people, that is their stories, that they had a abusive dad or a dad that wasn't there, and they put the effort in to make sure that they don't repeat that same thing. I thought it was interesting. There's something that Vince got asked about, and Heyman pops up off camera to almost like prop him up and tell him the answer. And what's the guy that's the Ringer podcast guy? I can't remember his Bill Simmons interviewed afterwards, and he said there was always someone sat next to Vince to remind him of what a story was supposed to be.
Yeah, pretty disturbing, the whole thing.
That's a good way to describe it. I definitely came away with it's funny, I came away with a horrible taste in my mouth. I think that if they wanted you to run away and start watching more WWE, then maybe if you watched the first 2 episodes, then you might feel like that. the stuff with Owen, the stuff with Benoit, the stuff with Brett and the screw job and all that. It's just horrible. And we all know those stories, obviously.
Yeah, I think they'd said that they realised at a point that they weren't making a documentary that was just for wrestling fans. They were making one that they wanted anyone to be able to sit and watch. My brother actually asked me, he'd noticed it on Netflix. He's not a wrestling guy. He's never watched wrestling. He's not interested. He said to me, "Is this something I would find, entertaining?" I was like, I don't know.
I think entertaining's the word.
Yeah. I said it's watchable if you don't know wrestling. It's you can watch it and understand the story you're being told. But I just don't know if I would ever recommend anyone watch it.
Aye.
And it's not nothing about the quality of the job that's been done or anything like that. It's not about that.
It's almost like they've sat on the fence a little bit, Netflix, because they could have done so much more with it and done a lot less on the wrestling side.
Yeah.
And they could have done
tried to
so much more on the wrestling side and eliminate.
It'd be interesting to see if obviously there's still federal investigation on the go, I think, and if that uncovers a whole lot of stuff, is there going to be more documentaries? Is there going to be follow-ups? Will a lot of people who spoke, some people will not speak, that obviously they just wouldn't, but I wonder how it would change some of the people's the way they're speaking about it. Like, thing is, this is something, with everything I try to keep in my mind. When something's an accusation, you can only go so far. You can only say, from everything we hear and everything we see, this is disgraceful, disgusting, blah, blah, blah. But it's not yet proven, or not yet, it's basically one voice against another at that point in time. But when things do get proven or adjudged, in a guilty sense, I just wonder, because a lot of the people, like Bruce Pritchard, couldn't come out and say, "Oh yeah, fuck Vince, he's an asshole." Not now. Okay, he would probably just, I assume, stay silent, completely silent about everything. But maybe some of your other talking heads that aren't family and weren't quite as close, I wonder what would be being said.
I don't think you'll ever get Cena talk negatively about Vince nor Undertaker. I think
sure The Rock would.
Nah, I don't think so either. I think Cody Rhodes is quite good at diplomatically talking about things. It's a different. I was going to say it's a different world now, but I don't mean in the sense of like the things that he's done were acceptable, or anything. I just mean the way in which people talk to media and stuff like that's a different world.
Yeah.
I thought. Do you ever think Triple H? I think we've talked about this before, like where he talks to the media and all that. He seems like a different person. And we've spoke about him having like the heart issues and all that, and it changed the perspective of you in your life and all that sort of stuff. Whereas I thought the Triple H that spoke on this was like reveling in stuff that he used to do. Like he supposedly was like really apologetic about curtain call, and he was sat there smirking and laughing and enjoying talking about the curtain call. I don't know.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. And what was interesting as well is, the majority, certainly from the people that were either Vince or very close to Vince, the majority of what you were hearing had been filmed before accusations came out. And I suppose they're all going to be enjoying telling the positive stories that they've got. And then I think there was a Pritchard moment, wasn't it, where he's asked what he thought of episodes he's seen, which must have been after some rough cuts or whatever were made available to those involved, and he's calling it a hit piece and saying that he hated it and all that.
He could possibly. I get why he could, but no objective person could think that.
No, I mean, if it, I think I know when I hear him speak, he hates anything that's insider. He's not into it. He hates all that kind of thing. He hates Dark Side of the Ring. Doesn't think it.
He's got a podcast where he talks about everything that happened backstage. Well, makes up stories
on significant things. Not anymore, anyway. But I could see like when they showed the empty chair, I think there was it said following these accusations, Vince cancelled all remaining interviews with us, and it just showed the empty chair in the ring and stuff like that. And obviously, I think the one person I don't feel any sympathy for there is Vince. I think if you're Shane and you're hearing all these accusations and you're like, well, obviously I have to pull out of this thing. I can't sit in a chair and speak about these now. Obviously I can't. And how difficult that must be for them, because they're living lives, they're and hearing about these things that, whether they, I assume, didn't have any full knowledge, probably knowledge of some, bullying or, harassment or stuff like that. But in terms of some of the things that are being talked about, they can't have known about
kids?
That side of it. Yeah.
I have my own theories on that. I assume Stephanie's probably covered up a bunch of stuff that he's done for the purpose of the business.
Interesting that she left and then came back when he left, and then left immediately when he came back. But yeah, I mean, not only that, like Shane's got kids. He's got young kids, and this stuff's going to be everywhere.
Yep.
It's So I watched it. It kind of felt like I endured it rather than enjoyed it. Just got through it, and then I was like, okay, done.
The last thing I wanted to ask you about was Austin. I think he came off really, really poorly. The whole thing.
The thing that shocked me was I didn't think that there were people in this day and age like basically dismissing the idea of CTE.
I don't believe in it.
I
liked that they had Chris Nowinski on it. I thought it was quite a good touch.
Do you know what it kind of reminded me of? I don't know if you ever watched this. There was definitely, the American football show Hard Knocks.
Mm-hmm.
There was a player on it who was adamant he didn't believe in dinosaurs, and there's like being shown all these artifacts at a museum, and he's like, nah, I don't believe in it. And I'm like, it's not really a believe in it situation. There's all this evidence there of this, but I found it really weird, the Austin thing.
I just feel like Austin always talks like this is just wrestling, isn't it? But he always talks like he's got his head screwed on. He seems out of any of the wrestlers from that sort of era, he never really comes off with these sort of daft hot takes on things.
He kind of seems like a guy that has adjusted to life away from the ring and the spotlight and all that. Lives on his farm, seems to, enjoy that side of life. Has his, interviews, shows, but aside from that and the odd appearance and things like that, he seems to be quite happy and quite balanced in terms of where his life's at.
Whereas if you were a complete, like somebody who's just, what's this people are talking about, I'm going to stick this on, you'd be like, that guy's another one of these idiots.
Yeah. The other thing that I found pretty disturbing, obviously lots of things to do with Vince, but when he was basically discounting the idea that Undertaker got a concussion in the match with Lesnar.
Mark was, he's just so taken aback by being defeated. Was he?
No.
No, he says he couldn't remember the match.
But I kind of expect that from Vince. I didn't expect it from Austin.
Taker's quite good. Like stuff talk when Taker talks on his podcast. I find him similar to Austin in that he seems to have quite a generally normal view of things. But you would never get him talking bad about Vince, I don't think.
Nah.
So this could be interesting when it goes over to Netflix. Hopefully it doesn't get in the way of our reviewing, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Hopefully we get some other types of content that doesn't involve...
Curious to see what they do with that. Maybe
it
more...
feels like all they can do by pulling back the curtain is reveal dark and negative stories, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I've always loved hearing, old stories and things like that, but a lot of those are very problematic as well.
Aye. Let's finish on a positive. So I was watching something with Brett, and they were talking to him about his match with Austin. He says he thinks his match with Austin at Mania 13 is his favourite ever match. He thinks it's his best ever match. And they asked him about the psychology or how they wanted to go into it, and he was talking about that he always saw it as school quarterback who was like the most popular guy in school, and this other guy's come from another school as a new member of the school, and he's got a chip on his shoulder, and he's the sort of comparable alpha male from another school, and he wants to come in, and he and the quarterback's got to put him in his place, and that's how he said that he laid out for Austin. That's what their match was.
I like that.
It's classy.
I like that because I wasn't watching when that actually happened. Like I'd had to revisit that after a few years of not watching WWF, and when I came back to it, Austin was the main man, and there was kind of that thing. I remember, kind of almost like, how did this happen? Last time I was watching, it was all Bret Hart. It was all Hogan had just gone away, I think, and I feel like if you had watched it, that was the moment that Austin was elevated to, he is a top of the card performer, and he is here to stay. It kind of felt like that, and it's definitely one of the best matches I've seen in terms of sort of flipping the narrative, like the crowd reaction to Austin at the end, who was getting cheers. He'd been getting cheers since King of the Ring and all that. He was getting favourable reactions before that match from some, but the way it flipped to pretty much constant favourable reactions everywhere apart from Canada, it's just so well done.
It's also that sort of organic thing of it just happening.
Yeah, they didn't have to ram it down anyone's throat. Yep. They didn't have to force feed you what was happening. It just played out like that, and really skillfully done.
Agreed. Well, we've got it all to come on our journey.
Nice.
Got it all to come, including The Rock v the Sultan at WrestleMania. At the same WrestleMania.
Gonna put butts in seats.
Right, well, until we get there, we've got plenty more Raws and dead men being sent up to heaven on Titantrons.
Yeah.
So we shall end there. And lots of Raws to do. It's not going to be as entertaining without Heenan. Sometimes the job matches are the most enjoyable part because of the stuff that Heenan says.
We'll just have to see how it goes.
That's a negative way of looking at it. Let's look forward to what we've got in store.
Yeah.
Todd Pettingill sitting in with Vince. Or nice. Joe Fowler. Right. No. Take it easy for the next 2 weeks and we shall speak soon.
Cheers.
Cheers.